target pricing. Very good. Okay, in the book, you can read it in the book. It's really, really funny because it says target pricing and target costs. It says there are 5 steps. Now, class, normally there's probably about 5 minutes in every lecture that you need to pay attention. And if you miss the 5 minutes, you miss the whole lecture. Okay, the next 5 minutes is the really, really good stuff, all right? So now I need your attention, all right? All right, the book, I can give you a talking textbook lecture if you like. If I do, I stand here, I put the book here. Now turn to page 551, all right? No. We are better than that, all right? I looked at the book. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you need to know is number 1 and number 5. Number 1 and number 5 is where the value happens in target costing. Because number 2, number 3, number 4, that's just a bit of back-end accounting. That's not the real deal with target costing. Look at it. Number 2, choose target price. Well, choose target price. That's just a decision, all right? That's not analysis. Number 3, derive a target cost per unit. That's just a bit of accounting. You can figure that out. Number 4, perform cost analysis. Again, that's accounting. You can figure that out. Excel can do that. But it's the number 1, which is the strategy, right? Because it's meant, whenever somebody mentions customer, then it must be strategy, right? And number 5, perform value engineering. That's how you can be better competitive over time. That's how you can actually reduce your costs from 900 down to 700 over the long term. You need to do 1 and 5. 1 and 5 is what will get a factory out from under these huge costs and to be lean and mean and sustainable in the long term. Okay, number 2, 3, 4, they are basically calculative steps. Are you with me here? It's the 1 and the 5 that are the real change agents of target costing. The textbook doesn't say that. How come? Why don't they say that? They go on and start to talk about what number 1 is and number 5, but they also rattle on about 2, 3, and 4, all right? But it's the 1 and the 5. So if you go talk to a client, if I go and talk to a client about implementing target costing, I'm going to focus on 1 and 5. Because the 2, 3, and 4 are literally just accounting and calculation. If a company is not going to change 1 and 5, then there's no hope. They're not going to change anything with target costing. You with me? It's the 1 that's the strategy change. It's the 5 that is inventory change, process re-engineering and cutting down processes. That's what makes the difference. That's what makes a company, enables a company to meet new target costs. So where's number 1 and where is number 5? Well, number 1 and 5 is basically in here. There's value engineering. Now, number 1 is here. Yes, functional analysis. It's deciding where are you going to compete. Number 1 is deciding which segment are you going to compete in. Why doesn't the book say that? Well, you know, books are not always smart. It's a good book. Don't worry, it's a good book, all right? But the books don't always tell you. When you read a book, you know, it's got 1,000 words. You think every word has 1,000th of value, right? No. Sometimes there's 20 words that has 50% value and the rest, you know what I mean? But you as students, you don't always know which is, you with me here? That's the challenge you have. So that my job is to tell you which words or which parts are the valuable parts. You with me? That's why you come to the lecture. All right, because anyone can read the book. And you don't want me to read it in front of you. All right, so what I'm telling you is that step 1 and step 5, they are the critical parts of target costing. 2, 3, and 4 are just calculative. All right, so let's see what 1 and 5 mean. All right, so number 5 is value engineering, design analysis. Number 1 is functional analysis. Okay, so what do we mean? So let's go back to our problem. What is our problem? $900. How can we do it? Full cost of the product. $900. How can we get it down? And that's the challenge. That's the challenge that any factory faces. They got so many costs. Well, we've got to start with value engineering. There are 4 ways to reduce costs. And this is where the textbook starts to get interesting. And so if I find the page so I can show you where they're talking about it, we're talking at page 553. Page 553. Okay, so what we can do is start with functional analysis. Okay, so that's short term. Okay, so we focus on key product functions. Keep those that add value. Find ways to reduce cost of a function. What do we mean by functional cost analysis? Well, how many of you have bought a hard disk drive recently? How many of you got a hard disk drive? Okay, have you opened it up before? Do you know what, like, give me a name of a famous disk drive manufacturer. Seagate, is that famous? Would you buy Seagate? I did. And you know what? It's turned out to be rubbish. I lost all my data. And anyway, so I took it to the repairman in Monco. Oh, can you look at this and see if I get my data back? And so the repairman opened it up and we looked inside. Oh no, the hard drive inside, it's not a Seagate. There's not a Seagate hard drive inside. What is it? Yell it out.
Samsung.
Yell it out.
Samsung.
Samsung. Like, what is this? Seagate. This is your Seagate. And inside, Samsung. What a lot of rubbish. And then I have a second hard drive, and guess what? That crashed too. It's also Seagate. Don't worry, Seagate's all right. But open it up. What's that? What's inside? Huh? What's it say? Samsung. Like, why would Seagate put Samsung inside? It's about competition. They could go to Samsung and say, oh, can you do, you know, can you do 100,000 insides for us? And we just put it inside and we go sell it. And Seagate, we've got our brand, boom. But the problem is that it's worthless. My data's gone. All right? But I wouldn't have known if you have no, you know, when you open it up, it voids the warranty. You know what I mean? Yes. It's tricky, isn't it? So you can't check inside because you're afraid, oh, I'll lose the warranty. I said, no. I want to find out what's inside this thing. All right? That's what we find. All right? You look for yourself. Have a look. Pass this around. All right? All right? My job is to open your eyes. Open your eyes as to what companies are really doing. Okay? This is real. This is not... this. Now, look, this is a legitimate strategy a lot of companies are doing. What's on the inside may not be what they make. That's competition. That's what competition does. It forces companies to put cheaper insides in. That happens. And you don't know. All right? So value engineering is about focusing and focusing. And so the inside, if we can still do the same job, then we're going to do it. Now, design analysis, functional analysis is figuring out what does the product do for you? What does it do for the customer? What it does for the customer, well, why does the customer buy the hard drive? They just want to store their data. There's no other functions, all right? So there's other hard drive manufacturers came out and said, no, we're going to make our shock-proof. So if you drop it, it still works. So they've got a rubber silicone around it. And, all right? So that functional analysis is deciding how do we compete? How do we compete with our competitors? But design analysis is the inside. Design is the inside of the product. So what Seagate has done, they've decided, oh, it's cheaper to buy 100,000 of the insides from Samsung and put it in rather than to make the 100,000 ourselves. All right? That's design analysis. That's the reality. Your life's not going to be the same. You come to my lecture. All right? Process innovation, reverse engineering. That is the big radical improvement, and then process improvement. So let me just stop here for a moment. I want you to absorb this for a moment. I want you to absorb this, and it's in the textbook. It's under value engineering. There are 4 ways to reduce costs. The example I've just given you with this, there's the outside if you still want the outside. It's not really worth much because my data is gone, but that's all right. All right. What we need to learn is functional analysis is deciding, it's like, where are you going to compete? Are you going to compete on minimal functions, or are you going to put lots of functions? For example, if you want to fly to Australia, you give me an airline that will give you a full service. What's an airline? Come on. If you want to fly to Melbourne, Australia. Have you flown to Australia before? Okay, so what's a cheap airline? Pardon? Air Asia, okay? So Air Asia, they decided to compete in a low cost and no frills. So the functionality you get in your ticket is a seat. That's all you get. But if you fly SIA, you get a seat, okay, and you get luggage check-in, then you get a meal, and then you get movies, and then you get everything, right? You get points, all right? So there's other functions that go with a full-cost airline, all right? So functional analysis is very similar to deciding what your strategy is. Where are you competing? Are you with me here? Now, here's the tricky part. Design analysis is exactly what I showed you with that hard drive, okay? Obviously, Seagate have decided to put Samsung inside, and you don't know. I don't, no, I do know now. Because I pulled it apart. I void the warranty, because this is not right. All right? I haven't made a YouTube video on this, but I'm going to one day. Maybe I'll put this video on YouTube. Let's do that. Okay. Design, and that's design analysis. Now, there's another company I went to in Taiwan. They make USBs. Have you all got a USB? You all got USBs, right? Okay, what are the best USBs on the market? Quick. The best ones. The best one, the most expensive one. Have I got it? I think I've got it here. I've got everything. There it is. Yes, they are. All right. This one, it's 250 gigabyte. No, 128 gigabyte. This is SanDisk, and the read-write speed to about 90 megabytes per second, very, very fast, okay? So that costs me nearly 500 Hong Kong dollars, so it's about 250 ringgit for that, all right? But you can go on Lazada and get a similar USB drive for 20 or 30 ringgit, you know what I mean? And you're probably thinking, oh, they're all the same. No, they're not all the same, please, because inside, and I've spoken to USB manufacturers, I've spoken to them, what they do is the cheap ones, they put in a slower chip and the read-write is slower. It takes longer for a video to load. It takes longer for you to upload and download. But you don't know as the average consumer. You don't know this. But when they put a cheaper design in, they can halve the cost of the chip inside. the cost of the chip inside can be 1/2, 1/3, even less. Okay? But you don't know the difference. And that's why SanDisk, whenever you look at a SanDisk product, they always put down the read-write speed because they want to show you that the chip inside is the fastest. And that's why you pay more. All right? So in some ways, what SanDisk is trying to do, SanDisk is actually, okay, they're focusing on providing the most functional, but it's very hard for them to tell you that their design is also superior design. They have to show you some technical specification when they're advertising. That's hard to do, right? Because the average person thinks USB, USB. Why would I pay 4 times more for this one? You with me here, right? That's a challenge. So what a lot of companies do when they're competing on cost is, well, they just change the inside. They change the inside like the hard disk drive. Change inside, cut the cost, cut. And the customer outside doesn't know the difference. All right? So functional analysis, design analysis. Then we have process innovation, process improvement. Process innovation, put a circle around here. This is what you call radical, dramatic improvement. This is radical. This is closing down the factory and building a new factory. This is converting a factory that's on 3 or 4 floors and moving it to a factory all on 1 floor, so the assembly line can go from one end to the other without having to put stuff at the end of each little assembly line onto a gurney, move it up to the next floor and put it onto the next assembly line. And I've seen that in many factories. They do that in China. Okay, so that's re-engineering. That's multiple. All right. Now, what is valuable to you for the exam out of 1, 2, 3, and 4 is this 4th one here. Put a big circle around here. A big circle around that. And because we're going to do what are we going to do now? We're going to do an activity related to number 4. Okay, we're going to look at number 4. Okay. All right, so there's reminder from week 1. Remember, I showed you that you can compete here, 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 or here, right? In some ways, that's what we mean by functional analysis. Okay, so step 1 of target costing. Step 1 of target costing is functional analysis. You decide to compete down here, so therefore you can, the insides don't matter so much. If you compete up here, the inside and the outside may matter. Now, step 5 of target costing is when we go to design analysis. Can we change the components? Can we reduce the number of components? Can we change the insides? That's a different question. Functional analysis is what the customer sees. Design analysis is, can we change the components? Can we reduce the number of components inside? That's step 5. Let me repeat. Step 1 is functional analysis. What functions are we going to compete on? Step 5 is design analysis. Can we change the inside? 2 different things. What did I say earlier? There's 5 steps to target costing. Which ones do you emphasize? Which ones really can make a radical change for an organization? Step 1, functional analysis. Step 5, design and value engineering analysis. Okay, so we're going to look at step 5 coming up. There's PQI. That's the USB manufacturer that told me all about what they put inside the USBs. Okay, so they put a cheaper chipset in that's slower and it's much less the price, and then they can still make a profit when the prices are going down over time. All right, and just to prove, yes, I was there. There's me there. That tall, funny guy there. Okay, all right. Design analysis. Okay, so how many of you like the iPhone? You got an iPhone? Guess what? You can. I bought some. I wanted to bring one into the lecture. I'll bring in a fake iPhone. It works. Fake iPhone. How do they make it cheaper? What they do is they solder the LCD panel directly to the main board. Soldered. So if you drop it, it comes apart, suddenly it doesn't work anymore. Whereas your iPhone that you have is screwed and fixed properly. Why would you solder it? Because it's cheaper. So how do they make fake products for lower price? They cut corners, okay? They still work, but they cut corners. And that's the only way that you can make cheaper. And you have cheaper chipsets like MediaTek from Taiwan, and cheaper IC block, cheaper main board. You have cheap components, then you can make a copy for 1/4 the price of the Apple iPhone. Can they do that? Sure they can, okay? And people around the world, they buy these cheap versions. Now, let me reply to you. When I'm talking to you about all of these chips and buying cheap this and cheap that, is that functional analysis or design analysis? What are we talking about? Hands up for design. Hands up for functional. Okay, it's design analysis, all right? Because what you're doing, you're designing in cutting costs strategy, all right? You put cheaper components in, so therefore that's how you cut the costs. Wow. Design analysis is about changing the inside of the product. Wow. What about process value analysis? Remember, I've talked to you about functional analysis. That's really where you are targeting the customer. Then design analysis is, can we put cheaper components inside and still have the same functionality? Can we? Yes, sure you can. But then there's process value analysis. That is, can we change the processes? Can we cut out inefficient processes? Yes, we can. We're going to finish up soon, because remember, we've got all Thursday to